The full moon on February 12th is very, very expansive. It's as if we have been in a contraction period, energetically, emotionally, maybe stagnant in life even, where things aren't really moving and things feel on hold. Things feel like projects are difficult to get put into motion, that type of vibe. And now all of a sudden, it's dramatically changing in like a 180-degree fashion to where things are now going to start moving forward very quickly, almost so quick that you gotta stay grounded and stay mentally balanced and not get swept up in the type of energy that we are now in. It's a very exciting, forward-moving, positive type of energy, among other things, of course, as well, which I'll talk about. But generally speaking, it's a very exciting time to be on planet Earth, my friends. So if you're watching this video, I assume you've discovered that there is quite a correlation between you and your life and how you're feeling and your spiritual growth even, and the astrology, the full moons, new moons, eclipses especially, and that you've discovered for yourself most likely that each moon has its own lessons to share, its own challenges. There's usually challenging aspects of it as well that can easily be overcome and also turn into a positive, but nonetheless, it's not always easy, this transformation business. And what these videos are is where I share with you the 5 major themes of the particular full moons. Right now we have one on February 12th, it's tomorrow actually, and this video is going to share with you 5 more grounded and specific themes that will hopefully help you have a smoother experience with the astrology, but also gain all the benefits, because there are always many opportunities and growth options and opportunities is the right word. There are many opportunities associated with each full moon, especially this one, like I said. So welcome to my channel, my friends. My name is Victor Oddo, and I will get into the 5 things right now. Number 1, I already kind of alluded to it. It is a very expansive energy, but there's usually a caveat with that. And my experience has shown me that there is no real good or bad. For example, when the energy is very expansive like this and you feel kind of like almost giddy and enthused to do stuff, and maybe you're entertaining, for example, a new business idea or a new project to work on or something new you want to put into your life. And there's like a resonance there, and it feels like it just resonates. It feels both light and expansive, just limitless possibilities. And in the past, when I would have these sort of phases, these like energetic openings, I would get sort of swept away by them. And in this energy, though positive, though it is very forward moving, you can really make progress nicely now, it's also a bit ungrounding. It also can lead us to have what Adyashanti, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, calls magical thinking, where we become so connected with like the higher realms that we feel like we could do anything. I could fly out my window right now, that type of thing. I could make $1 million and it's going to be easy, and the universe is supporting me. In a sense, that's true, but also no, because this energy is not going to last. This is not the ultimate truth. This is not the end-all, be-all. There is a shadow side. It can be very inflating. It can be very ungrounding. Again, it can lead to not only magical thinking, as Adyashanti puts it, but also poor choices. I've made a lot of overly ambitious decisions in this energy, only when to find the astrology shifted, and other aspects of astrology can have you start to look at the details and say, okay, does this actually make logical sense, and things like that. And I've gotten myself into some tricky situations time and time again by allowing this energy to kind of like run away with itself. I can even feel it as I make this video, kind of an ungroundedness I'm starting to feel. So I'm going to take my own advice and kind of chill out. And I recommend you do as well. I recommend that all weather, all seasons, all aspects of duality, it comes and goes and it shifts and it swirls and sways and all that kind of thing. And there is no ultimate truth. There is no good or bad. Even the times that we're coming out of, the times where things seem at a standstill, where you feel like you're really being sort of possessed by your unconsciousness, and you're watching it wreak havoc in your life and in your relationships and in your life circumstance. That seems bad, and how it feels now feels good. But toiling in our shadow, basically, is what allows us to heal and to cleanse and to purify our psyche and our nervous system of these impediments within our consciousness. And that allows us to start to soar and have these big upgrades that we're going through now. So they're part of the same coin, essentially. So my advice to you folks is stay grounded, be wise. It reminds me, sometimes we run these ayahuasca retreats in Costa Rica, and having a 3 days in a row or 2 days in a row of ayahuasca can have the same exact effect, where you really connect with the divine and you feel very like a new person and anything's possible. And sometimes people come out of these ceremonies and they're like, I'm going to shave my head, I'm going to change my name, I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to get divorced, and it all feels so appropriate. And it's like a month later, they're like, what the hell have I done? What was I thinking? I made a lot of dumb choices. It's that type of vibe, my friends. So just be wise during this time. Set goals, be ambitious, dream big, shoot for the stars. But know that to get to the stars, it's going to take some planning maybe. It's going to take wise, calculated choices. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to require a balance at some point. And just try to remember all you've learned over the years and bring it to the table so you can really make the most of this frequency. One of the things that oftentimes happens in this type of vibe is you start to realize that less is more. You start to realize your own power. You start to realize that your self, your intention, your decision, the focusing of your energy in a particular area, it has a much greater effect than you may believe. And because of this lack of awareness we all have, like we don't know our power. A lot of times to compensate for our perceived lack of power or resources or whatever, we try to overcompensate by doing things, by doing too much, taking on too many projects. It reminds me of like going back to when I was starting my business. One of the things I would do is I would launch a digital course. I had courses I would sell, right? And because of my lack of faith in my abilities, my lack of faith in myself, my lack of confidence, I would not, in a subconscious way anyway, believe that my course in and of itself is worth the money, even though I'd sell it for like $50. It was like always dirt cheap. So what I would do is I would add all these bonuses. I'll do this, and then we're going to add this and this and this and this and this and this. And that was a bunch of unnecessary actions taken to compensate for my perceived lack of power. And then the effect it had was also, it would backfire, because people would be like, they'd look at my page and they'd wonder, what the hell is all this? So you're gonna help me with this and this and this. It seems a little bit excessive, and people would be kind of turned off by that. This happens oftentimes, as you probably already know, in relationships. When you really are into somebody and you buy them flowers every day and you show up and you sing them songs and you're always there for them, and it's like, get away, you're too much. And then it's exhausting for you. It's exhausting for you. It's unsustainable for you. It's unbalanced. It leads to an inevitable reversal almost of a backfire, just like me with the courses. It's like that same thing. So it's a good time to really be mindful of what you put your energy into, and know that there's like a long, extending ripple effect to anything it is you do, and more is not always better. I'm learning this right now as a really good example, which inspired this talk, in my martial arts classes. I may have discussed it before. I'm super into now kickboxing, Muay Thai, boxing, jiu-jitsu, things like that. And because I'm so enthusiastic about it, and because of also my general temperament, I want to get better as fast as possible. So what I did, I started going to classes all the time, even though my body's still adjusting to the intense training. I hired a mobility coach. I'm doing strength and conditioning. I'm following people on YouTube and practicing shadow boxing in the morning. And what happened yesterday, in fact, is I showed up to class and I was just tired. Not only physically, but mentally, I was spent, and my instructor could see. In fact, he gave a whole lecture to the class that I knew was about me. He said, you got to be focused. He said, you can't just flow through the motions. You have to have intention in everything you're doing. You have to be sharp. And that was kind of the vibe of his pep talk or whatever. And I knew it was about me. And to my defense, I couldn't. I was too tired. Why? Because I had taken on too much. There was a point of diminishing returns. And I'm realizing that if I can do less, that the things I do have more intention, have more focus, have a greater impact. And how nice. How nice to be able to improve at life faster by doing less. Just like I doubt a large percentage of you are into archery, but those of you who are probably have heard the expression that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It's a concept of folks who shoot bow and arrows, but it's also a good metaphor for life, and it's a good metaphor for this exact energy right now. It's a good time to ask yourself, what are the things you're doing that you don't actually need to be doing? Similar to point 2, but with a different emphasis, number 3, it's a great time you'll probably find you'll have more discernment right now about the things in your life that are truly representative of you and your highest excitement and your authenticity versus things that you were involved in that was more so a product of your conditioning and things you kind of thought you wanted. And that also can lead to feeling like overwhelmed with life. Like, oh, there's just too much going on. I'm too busy. Yeah, because you're probably doing things that aren't actually your business to be doing. And it can happen in simple ways. What comes to mind one time is me and Aaron Dowdy. You probably know him. He's another YouTuber. We're very, very close friends. And when we met up years ago, we were so excited to have a close friend, someone who really understood. We understood each other very nicely. And we both were YouTubers, so we related on a lot of things. We also had a lot of the same interests. And for several years, whenever he would do something, I would do it. And whenever I would do something, he would do it. We did everything together, and it sounded so cool, like a match made in heaven. But as we started to continue to grow and change and evolve, we started to realize that, you know what? Some of the things he's doing, I'm actually not into. And vice versa. For example, about a year ago or under a year ago, I bought a guitar. And I started playing guitar. I've talked about it before. I got some hanging back there, actually. And I would see Aaron, and I would say, man, I'm just loving playing guitar. I have an instructor, and I'm learning these cool rock songs, and it's very challenging, and it's causing me to grow, and it's been an amazing hobby to get into, and I'm feeling so satisfied doing it. So the next day, Aaron goes off and buys a guitar. And it's just kind of how we would always do things. And then, after about a month of grinding along, he's like, what am I doing? I have no desire to play guitar. Why would I get this guitar? Same thing when he got into surfing. He got into surfing about a year ago. Similar thing. He loved it. He explained why he loves it. It is a perfect fit for him. I went surfing a few times. I like it, but I don't share his enthusiasm. But my point is, for years, we unconsciously just did things in our life that weren't actually, again, representative of who we are unnecessarily. And then what does that do? It takes away from your time and energy you could spend into the things you really do want to do in life. One other example, going back to the guitar analogy, I've been learning in particular fingerstyle guitar, which is like an acoustic guitar, and you pick the strings with your fingers. And after about 9 months, I'm finally not great, but I'm okay. I'm seeing progress. I can play pretty decently, and I can also learn songs way faster than before. But I've been finding myself also, just out of lack of awareness, starting to learn songs with a pick. And I'm starting to learn these very simple songs with a pick. And I realized, this feels like starting guitar all over again. And I went to play just last night, in fact. I was on my couch, and I was like, got the damn pick, and I was like, I felt so mentally like I don't have it in me. I don't have the energy that it requires to like force myself to learn this entirely new aspect. And then I asked myself, well, why are you? Why are you? My son Lucas, he's an amazing guitarist who's been playing the exact same time as me. And he never had a coach. He just does what he likes to play. He likes to learn solos, like Guns N' Roses, Metallica, like solos. He watches YouTube videos. He learns them. If it's too hard for him, he just doesn't play. He does what he likes. He's always having fun. And he's sort of focused on this particular niche, not because he decided to or wants to master it, because it's the most fun. He just seeks what's the most fun. And he is light years, granted he's a kid, so he learns fast, but he's light years ahead of me. He really is phenomenal at guitar already. And he's always had this playful relationship with it. And it's just more, I think, of a genuine acceptance and awareness of, I like this, I don't really care for this. And that's okay. He's okay not doing some of the things I'm learning, you know, but a lot of us aren't okay with that. We think we need to be this larger than life version of ourselves, again, to compensate for our lack of awareness of how special and unique and perfect we already are. But imagine if you could own that. Imagine if you could wake up during this full moon period and realize your true value and your true worth and know that you are enough now. You are enough as it is in this exact moment. And imagine the freedom you could feel, even more expansiveness, by decluttering your life for the things that aren't necessarily you, even if they once were. Because it can be like that. That can be sort of confusing sometimes, can it? Where it just changes out of the blue. I was a fitness trainer for so long, and then I just lost interest. After like being a personal trainer for over 10 years, I had my own gym, and all of a sudden it was like, the feeling of resonance and excitement that I once felt for so long is just not there anymore. And it's being directed over here. I wanted to be a YouTuber. And it seems so perplexing. Like, why do I? But here I am. I'm not a personal trainer, and I'm very happy. And I'm grateful for my experience as a trainer, but I'm in alignment now, and I'm more happy now. So a lot of times, these full moons and stuff, they can really accelerate this process of self-discovery and also change. You know, life is not meant to just be found and then you sail off into the sunset and that's it. It's always changing. And the folks who watch these kind of videos are usually on a spiritual path and find that life, your life theme, the tone, the theme is the best word I can think of. It's always it changes so fast now, doesn't it? But it's important to keep up with that. It's important to make sure your life and what you're putting your energy into is actually in accordance with who you've now become, even if that's different than who you were yesterday, which may be the case. Number 4, it's a great time, not a great time, but you might be finding that some of your blind spots are being revealed to you. Like areas of unconsciousness, essentially, that it's like long overdue to adjust. Like maybe something you've been doing. Not trying to relate too much with what I was saying before. More so just it's a time where you might have life showing you where your blind spots are, quite honestly. Just happened to me. Just as I mentioned yesterday, I had the instructor basically give a whole pep talk about being unfocused to the entire class, and I knew it was about me. And it was like, it's a lesson I've been playing out in so many ways in my own life, where all these things I'm sharing, I'm guilty of doing big time. I always do that. I always get into something and then I overdo it. I did the same thing like months ago. I was talking about the guitar, same thing. I love guitar. I'm excited about guitar. So I'm going to play guitar 20 hours a day. And what happens? I found that there is I have this habit of overdoing things, basically. And yesterday was a real humbling experience, honestly, because I showed up to class tired, and the class was extremely hard. They're always different levels of intensity, these Muay Thai classes. And this one was freaking brutal. It was all this high intensity work, and it just gassed me out so bad. It was very clear, like your experience now, even the teacher calling you out, it's all life saying, wake up. Wake up. Haven't you learned that doing too much leads to the opposite of what you want? So it's like, it was one of those like humbling, like the universe saying, I've been telling you, you haven't been listening, so here you go, that type of thing. And those are tough pills to swallow. It's really tough to own it. I could have been like, man, the teacher's being an asshole and this and that, and he doesn't even know I'm trying so hard and I'm practicing on the weekdays, and none of that. There was none of that. It was, yep. Reminds me again also of drinking ayahuasca. It can do that. It can just start to show you these aspects of yourself. It can show you where you're being, for example, judgmental. It can show you where you're being unconscious. It can show you where you're being self-serving. And it's like, it's like hard to look at. It's like, because it's, when it happens on the medicine anyway, it's like, yep. These truth bombs just falling into your lap and you can't hide from them. And it's so tempting to rationalize them. So tempting to say, well, it's because, then you're missing the point. We're all like this. What I've learned is that everyone does this. No one's above anybody else. We're all learning. We're all fairly unconscious still. Even you woke folks who think you're really awake, no. That can be an ego trip also. I see it all the time. We're all doing our best at life with our very, very limited level of consciousness. If you've ever taken a psychedelic or had like a mystical experience or a near-death experience, you realize just how closed off we are and how we look at life like this. And we all do it. So when you realize, when it starts to broaden, which is what these full moons do, and you start to see all these areas that need work and tending to, it can lead to a couple things. One, denial and excuses. Two, it can lead to beating up on yourself. Where like, oh my God, I suck, and neither of which are productive. Neither of which are helpful at all. It's okay to be a student. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to forgive yourself for those mistakes. In fact, my wife and I, we were just talking. One of the things that I've been realizing, going back to that theme of doing more with less, is just how like almost like we squander our resources, I would say, as a family. Like our carbon footprint, I'm not happy to say, is freaking big. And my wife was explaining how, when she was growing up, she had many times where there was nothing to eat, literally nothing. Sometimes there'd be a box of cereal with no milk. There'd be like an empty fridge, an empty cabinet, and her and her siblings would have to share like a freaking cup, a Dixie cup of freaking dry cereal, and they went hungry and things like that. So my wife was just we were exploring this earlier, and she realized that now because of that, she doesn't want her kids ever to feel that way. So she'll like overfeed them, and she'll give them kind of like unhealthy food sometimes, and it's unconscious. It's developed these habits where our kids sometimes crave unhealthy foods and things like that. And it's like, it's a hard thing to accept. I'm a mother. I love my kids, and I've been overfeeding them, junk food. She brought home this fudge yesterday. She was away for 5 days, and that was like the wake up call. Our kids are primarily healthy, by the way. Don't want you to get the wrong impression, but it's what, there's an element of truth of what I'm saying here, but it's a hard pill to swallow. But she was saying, oh, you know what? I think I know why I do that. I think it's because, as I said, I know what it's like to be hungry. I know what it's like to need food and not have it. And that can lead to an unconscious overcompensation. So here's fudge, here's this. But that has, of course, its own problems. But the point is for my wife to admit that to herself and say, you know what, I've been doing something unconsciously that's not good for my kids. No mother wants to do that, but she did. And I was very impressed by it. And I did it as well yesterday, and we all can do that. But there's usually an initial moment when you become aware of something of like resistance, where you're like, it's not me, no. It's like you don't want to believe it. But if you can own that, if you can own your shortcomings, and then you can work on, then and only then can you actually work on them and make real improvements in your life. So it's a really great time to just let the mirror reflect back who you become and be willing to see and accept and work on whatever it is. And then you can have a tremendously productive experience rather than make excuses and then you're going to unconsciously play it out in some other scenario and then have this exact same thing come to you again, but even more with more consequences, basically. And number 5, it's a great time for abundance, for the abundance mindset, for manifestation of true abundance, but it might go down in a way that's very, very different than you are expecting. I just read from this awesome book, which I don't have up here. I highly recommend it. It's called, what's it called? It's called Rules of a Night or something like that by Ethan Hawke, the actor. This actor Ethan Hawke, in his family, they found in like the late or the mid 70s, I think it was, this old box of letters that were written by an actual knight in like the late 1400s, and he was off at battle or something, this guy, and he was concerned he might not make it home to see his children. He thought he was going to die in battle, which he did. So what he did is he wrote them all these different like letters, these like individual letters to his kids, sharing wisdom about things like gratitude and dedication, I just read today, persistence, courage, all these virtues basically. And he would write about them, and then he would also write about how, shared a little story about his time as a knight and things like that. And anyway, it's a very, very soulful, one of the most penetrating books I've ever read in my life. But anyway, the point is, in this book, one of the things he says, and he talks about gratitude or something. He says there's 2 ways to be rich. 1 is to make a lot of money, and 2 is to want for little. And he basically talks about how, so my interpretation you could say is that a lot of the things we think we want are just like conditioned. There's a consumerism type of conditioning that is just rampant on planet Earth. One of the main sources of this pillaging of this beautiful, pristine planet to sustain these unnecessary, unconscious, lavish lifestyles. And I'm guilty of it as well. But anyways, one of the things he mentioned is like, again, wanting for little. When you want for little, you have a lot. It's really just a matter of perspective, abundance. And I've experienced that. At one point I was living, my whole family, when I was building up my businesses, I lived in a 21-foot travel trailer. I shopped at Walmart. I had like a few black shirts, a few white shirts, a little hoodie. My shoes cost $10. There was like $9.99 shoes. And, my whole family were squashed in a freaking 21-foot travel trailer. I have 3 kids, mind you. And you know what I found living like that? Is that my happiness was the exact same. My perception of abundance was the same. I realized like at the end of each night, what my kids and my wife and I would do, we'd eat a meal in our little travel trailer kitchenette thing, and we'd play games around the table. And to this day, we do the exact same thing. And the actual feeling of presence and connection and joy and laughter and excitement and competition and all those things are just as present with less. And in fact, I remember when we finally sold the travel trailer and moved into an apartment, like not even a nice apartment. It was like not a crazy apartment or anything. It was like 1,500 square feet or something, but we had a garage, I remember. That was the biggest upgrade I've ever went through in my entire life to this day. That was mind-blowing. To have a normal size shower, to have like an actual living room that doesn't also have the master bed in it and also the kitchen and also the front door. That's how we lived before. And it's all relative. It's all relative. And abundance a lot of times is like a wakefulness, a mindfulness of what you have. And I'll practice this some mornings where I will say to myself, I am abundant. I am abundant. And whenever I like try to program myself with that sort of affirmation, it doesn't necessarily bring me more abundance sometimes, but it makes me aware of, oh yeah, I have this nice water bottle. It's beautiful. This is a solid water bottle. It's like a nice ass water bottle, okay? I had this journal. It's like not a big deal, but I could write down my thoughts. I write down my dreams. I get to plan my life, and how cool is that? I can breathe. I had allergies in Austin, Texas. The allergies can be real bad. There's this thing called cedar fever, and I had allergies for like a month, and it was miserable. And now they're like 70% better, and that's a blessing. So it's a mindset. And then when you're in this sort of mindset of gratitude, essentially, then more stuff does come, but it's almost not the point. It's not the point of getting more things, getting more money in your bank account, getting a nicer house, a nicer car, nicer clothes. Those are useless unless you have the wakefulness to appreciate them. And I've also experienced that. I've experienced a booming business and coming into lots of money and being able to buy whatever I want, basically. And I've also seen that that doesn't do anything for me. It's done nothing for me. The ability to buy 1 million guitars and things like that, it's like, it leads to also problems. It leads to like, it's like a never-ending cycle of wanting more and more and more and more and more and more and more. I have a nice new car. Well, it's not a Escalade. I need that now. And then you get that, and then it's like, well, it's not a this, and there's never an end. So for me, what I've learned a lot, and what I've been working with in this particular full moon, is not so much getting more abundance. It's more so gratitude and appreciation for the things I already have. And what it's caused me to do is declutter and get rid of things and become more aware of what do I need versus what has been a conditioned want. And if I can change that mindset, I won't need as much money, I won't need as much stuff, and I'll be probably more happy. So now's a really good time, my friend, to really just embrace the mindset of abundance in whatever way it means for you. Maybe for you it's different. Maybe for you, the actual physical abundance has been long overdue and you just don't believe you deserve it, so you've been kind of holding it at bay. So maybe for you it's the opposite. Maybe it's about embracing that I do, you know what, damn it, I want those $500 pair of shoes. I like them, I think they're super cool, and I'll wear them every day. And that's okay too. There's no right or wrong as long as it's authentic. As long as it's what you genuinely want and are attracted to versus what's been programmed. And if we can get clear with that, then I believe everybody can have what they need, for the most part. The world is so imbalanced in other ways that maybe that's not technically true in this particular case, unfortunately. But even then, man, I'm reading this book called The Soul of Money right now, and it's about this writer, and she goes to India, and she was just taken back by how impoverished many millions of people live in India. It was a wake-up call for her. But what she found though was that there was like a happiness. And I've experienced this going to third world countries as well, where like you see like how they live versus how you live, and you'd think they'd be miserable, but there's actually oftentimes more light in them, more happiness, and it makes you wonder how essential is it actually. I'm watching this other TV show as another example, Band of Brothers. Some of you have probably seen that. It's an older series. And I'm watching these like soldiers fighting in World War II, and it's so heartbreaking to watch just how that all went down for this easy company, they call it as well. But what's really been intriguing to me is just the Band of Brothers. Like in a situation where your friends are getting blown up left and right. It sounds unthinkable. And what's grown out of that is this brotherhood. There has been many scenes where someone's been like left behind almost, and someone would have to risk their life, almost like sure death, to go and get their wounded brother, even though they're probably already dead, and they did it without even thinking about it. And it's just there's this beautiful humanity, ironically, in the temperament of the people, in addition to other adaptations as well, obviously, that can come from a war. So anyways, life has shown me that a lot of the abundance really is about your mindset. It's about what you choose to focus on. And I've also learned, again, the more I can focus on what I have, the more things I get, but then it's like, doesn't even matter. So anyways, those are my thoughts on the full moon. I hope you enjoyed this video, my friends. Best of luck. Let me know in the comments section if you like these videos. I've been wondering about continuing making them, honestly, and maybe taking the channel in a bit of a different direction. I'm not sure. So let me know your thoughts, my friends. And with that said, I'll probably see you soon. Peace.